And we made it to the last section of this module. Woohoo! Okay, this one you're going to be doing it backwards. You're going to be creating the linear equations from the information that you're given instead of starting with the equation and trying to find things. Okay, so let's see what we've got. Okay, so starting with the easiest version, and we'll get harder as we go. Right here is slope-intercept form. And, well, the slope-intercept form of an equation, but they just call it slope-intercept form. Okay, you have to memorize that. It will never go away in your math career, and you're going to use it so much that you won't even think about it later. But for right now, you have to memorize it. Okay, so m is the slope, and b is the y-coordinate of the y-intercept. Okay, because the intercept is an actual point. You only want the b value. I missed it. There we go. We only want the b value, not the 0, right? Okay, so you look down here in the example that we have. Because it is written as 0, comma 2, that means 2 is b, okay? And you're given the top line says a slope of -4. That means this is m. You have them both. Okay, so when you write the formula on your first step, you substitute in the values you're given and create the equation. So y equals -4x add 2. You're done. That's it. Okay, try yours. So whenever it says a slope of blah, 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 that means that is the m in the formula. And passing through the point 0, comma something, that is your b. If this is not 0, that is not the case. Okay, if I were going to graph this, starting at the origin, I wouldn't go left or right, but then I would go down 6. So it is on the y-axis, so it's the y-intercept. Okay, so that point would be right on the y-axis. Okay, so formula. Is that necessary? No. Is it a good habit? Absolutely. Okay, so m is 3/4. Bring the x down. Add. Okay, now here's a question. If I'm adding a negative, do I have to do that? And the answer is no. You can. Adding a negative is the same thing as subtracting. Okay? In fact, you want to avoid having two signs whenever possible. Okay, one quick reminder is that the x either goes right off to the side, like right across from the line, or it goes up with the 3. If you write it down with the 4, it's wrong. Okay? So it's 3/4 times x, which is the same thing as 3x over 4, but this is not the same as 3 over 4x. Okay? X, where anytime you have a variable, it just acts as a whole number until you know that it isn't. Okay, so if I do 3/4 times x, I'm timesing by x over 1, right? Multiply these two, I get 3x. Multiply these two, I get 4. Okay, x has to be on the top because of this 1 in the bottom when you're timesing. Okay, I always put it off to the side though. You will see some problems with it up on top. Okay, now, when you are given slope and any point on the line, so it would work with the y-intercept, but this is for times when it's not the y-intercept. Okay, so on the last screen we did 0, comma something. This is where you have something comma something you don't know. Okay? However, like I said, it will work for this too if you forget the other way. And you have a new equation to memorize. It is called the point slope form, and it is useful because you're given a point on the line and the slope. Therefore, point slope. Okay? We know that slope is m, and just like when we were finding the slope, they have already put the things in, and from this, they were able to come up with this information. So if you're given this format, which you very seldomly won't, that came out horrible. You won't see that very often. But if you do, you know the number in the front of the parentheses is your slope. The number with the x is x sub 1. Because your formula is a subtract, we're just going to use 1. See? Okay? And the number with the y is the y sub 1. And again, because the formula is subtract, we're going to do the opposite of add 8, and it becomes negative 8. Opposite of subtract 1 is positive. Okay? All right, so now we're going to actually do it. So first thing you should do, like I've been saying, is write your formula down. The more you write it, the quicker you'll memorize it. So just get used to doing it, okay? All right, so the point is x1, y1, and the slope, I'm going to write m equals right here because, actually, let's do that in a color, because that's on the other line with a slope of 3. So I'm just doing it this way. Okay, so now you substitute y minus, and y sub 1 is negative 3. So we're subtracting a negative 3, which means negative 3. Subtracting a negative makes it a positive. So that's equal to the slope times x minus, and in this case, x sub 1 is 2. So we're just going to subtract 2. Once you get it set up, you're going to distribute. So that's clearing the parentheses, right? So we're going to do 3 times x and 3 times negative 2. Y add 3 is equal to 3x minus 6. And then get y by itself. And you're done. Well, almost. And I'll show you here just a sec. Okay, so we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. That gets y by itself. Okay, now on this side, if you have any simplifying to do, don't do anything that would change y. Okay, you can combine things together. You can, I don't know, if you wanted to write the negative 3 off here to the side, then you would be combining like terms. But you don't want to get rid of fractions, because if you do, you're going to have to times both sides by something, and that will change by y, or change the y. Okay? Make certain that it is in order. Okay? X first, X term has to go first because you want it in y equals mx plus b form. Okay, let's take a look at yours, and I'll explain what this green writing is. I talked about it on the last page, but, okay, is this, okay, you're going to use this. They give it to you. Why can't we use this? We're given the slope, and can't we just put 5 in here? And the answer is no, because this is the y-intercept. So the value has to be in the y position. Okay, it's not the x-intercept, it's the y-intercept. So that's why you can't do it. All right, go ahead and try it. Okay, I have my formula written down. I know they have it already, but I like to do it myself. Okay, so this is my x1, y1, and this is my slope. So formula becomes y minus 0 is equal to 1/4, because that's my slope, times x minus 5. Okay, let me put the steps over here. I erased them. I have no idea how I did that. Okay, so now we're going to clear the parentheses. That was step 2. So we go like this. Okay, so I have 1/4 x minus, okay, just a reminder on the multiplying of a whole number. That's the problem. But what you're actually doing is multiplying straight across and straight across. So you have to put the 5 over a 1 so that you can multiply straight across. So it's 5 over 4. Okay. Now in slope-intercept form, keep it in fraction form. Don't change it to decimals. It's just what you will be seeing in the future most often. So try to learn how to do the fractions because you're going to need them. Okay? So what's happening over here now? Do I want to write y minus 0 down here? You don't have to, right? Because y minus 0 is just y. So we're done. We didn't need step 3. And I got the steps back, so there you go. Okay, so those 3 steps every time. Substitute, clear the parentheses, get y by itself. Okay, fractions make life a little bit interesting. Okay, another reason not to use fractions, okay, the one over here on the left is 1/5. As a decimal, that is 0.2, and that is fine. But over here, -4/3 written as a decimal is a repeating decimal. Okay, anytime I stop writing 3's, I have rounded it, and it's no longer the exact number I started with. Okay, so even if I went out to the, what are we at, 100,000ths place, um, it's still not the same. If I took those dots off, I've estimated, I rounded. If I leave the dots, then I can't work with it. You know, you have to round it somewhere to work with it in an equation. So rather than doing this, leave it as a fraction and learn how to do fractions. And you'll want to do that because Canvas will mark it wrong if you round off a decimal. Okay? So here we go. Formula. Hopefully you have it memorized by now, but here we go. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. I'm going to label things. So this is my slope. This is x1 and y1. Substitute. Here we go. Y minus -3. is equal to 1/5 times x minus -2. Okay? Now we have to deal with the fraction. So you just learn how to do it, okay? So we're going to distribute here and here. Actually, at this one, like I said at the beginning, you could change it to a decimal because it goes in evenly, but I will never do that. So I'm going to work it out with fractions every single time. So 1/5 times x is just that, plus 1/5 times 2. Remember, you have to put the 2 over a 1. Multiply straight across, you get 2/5. Okay? And I think I've told you all before, but I want to see this. I want your papers messy. I want to see your work, okay? Don't ever try to turn in a very clean, pristine test. I want to see the craziness you went through to get your answer. That helps me figure out, if you miss it, what you did wrong and where I can help you, okay? All right, back to our problem. I've got to isolate the y, get y all by itself. So I'm going to subtract 3. And now I have another problem to do off to the side. Okay, you can do this any way you want, but I'll show you how I do it here in just a second. This is not the way I do it. Okay, I'm subtracting, right, because I have opposite signs. Because I'm subtracting, I'm going to put the 3 on the top because it's the biggest number. Minus 2/5. You can borrow and subtract. Okay, then you have to change it back to an improper fraction, so that would be 13/5. Okay, so y equals 1/5 x minus, because 3 was bigger, -13/5. It will be negative, and there you go. Okay, this process down here, different teachers have taught it different ways. That's one way to do it. Okay, let me show you the way I do it. So back to here. We are going to subtract 3 from both sides, but I'm going to, on this step right here, get a common denominator with the 5. How many fifths do I need in order to have 3 when I'm done? 15, because I want 15/5 to simplify to 3. In other words, 3 times 5 gave me the 15. Okay, so I knew I had to do fifths because of the fifths here. So y on this side equals 1/5 x. Now I'm just subtracting those two because the signs are different and there's more negatives. So the 2 positives cancel 2 of the negatives and you get 13/5, which is exactly what we got over here. Okay? We will go over that in class, but please practice it because you're going to need it, okay? All right, let's take a look at yours. It's a fraction again, so hopefully you'll have that same thing, but maybe not. We'll find out. And let's do some substituting. So here's m, x1, y1. Do you need to label them every time? Absolutely not. Would it be helpful? Most likely. Yeah, at least until you get used to where everything is located, right? Okay, so y minus 6 is equal to -4/3 times x minus -3. We're going to distribute, and I don't know if you noticed, but yeah, your fraction cancels out. You don't have to worry about it, right? So y minus 6 is equal to negative 4/3 times x. Negative times a positive is a negative. So 4/3 times 3 over 1, the 3's cancel. So all you get is 4 over 1, which is just 4. So yours was easier. Add 6, add 6. So now you get y equals negative 4/3 x, add 2. And you're done. Okay, let me clarify one thing with the directions. Write the equation of blah, 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 blah. Write the answer in slope-intercept form. You don't start with slope-intercept form. This is y equals mx plus b. Okay, y equals mx plus b. You start with point-slope form because that's what you're given. Okay, there is a way to do it using slope-intercept form, but I just have chosen to teach you the one way because most people do it that way. If you have learned it the purple way down here at the bottom, I can show it to you again, but I'm just going to concentrate on point-slope form. It's just more straightforward, okay? All right, there's those two. And one step harder. Okay, what you're going to be given is 2 points. That's it. However, when you're given 2 points, you can find the slope. Okay, let's do that first. So I'll zoom in. Here we go. First step is find the slope. So we're going to use our formula from before. Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And this would be x1, y1. And this would be x2, y2, right? First point, second point. So here we go. Y from the second minus y from the first. So negative 3 minus 5 over x from the second, negative 1, minus x from the first, negative 3. So minusing a negative makes it a positive 3. Simplify that. We get negative 8 over 2. So our slope is negative 4. Now you can do the problem. Okay, you couldn't until you found the slope. So now we use our slope, or our point slope form, excuse me. So y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Just because this is sub 1 doesn't mean you have to use the first point. Let me explain. All right, there's a drawing or graph of what's happening. So I have both points and the line through them. You want to come up with the equation of that line. So my question is, that single line that goes through both points, does it slope change between here and here? No, it's the same thing. It's a straight line. If the line was bent, that would be different. But because it is a straight line, you can use this point with the slope that we found, or you could use this point with the slope that we found, and you will come up with the correct equation. So if one of the points looks harder than the other, use the one that you like. Okay? I'm going to show you both of them just to prove my point, but for now, I'm just going to do the purple point. And then, like I said, I'll do the pink one in a minute. Whoops, sorry. So here we go. Y minus 5, because that's the y value, is equal to the slope we just found, which is negative 4 times x minus the x value from the same point, minus negative 3. Okay, so these two have to be from the same point. You can't choose one of these and one of those because it's not the point that the line goes through. So now we're going to distribute. We get y minus 5 equals negative 4x minus 12 and get y by itself. So y equals negative 4x minus 7. There is our equation. And if you remember the graph I had, negative 7 as the y-intercept, that means it's way down on the y-axis, and mine was way down, wasn't it? Okay, so let's do the pink point just to show you. So starting over, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. I know I just wrote it, but I'm writing it again. So pink point this time. So y minus negative 3 is equal to the slope we just got times x minus negative 1, which makes it add 1. Okay, distribute the 4. So we get y add 3 is equal to negative 4 minus 4 and get y by itself. We end up with y is equal to negative 4x minus 7. Again, okay? That will always happen if you have 2 points to choose between. So you just need to determine which one you want to use. Eventually, you'll get used to what to look for to figure out which one will be easier, but they both give you the same answer. And both of them on this page are your turn. So yours are above and below each other, I believe, on the same page, but I put them both on the same screen, so here you go. All right, I'm going to show you 2 different ways that I organize questions like this. You can do it any way you want. However, you can see how organization is very important with things like this, right? You don't want to get anything mixed up. And I'm only going to do 1 point rather than both. So first of all, slope. So I'm going to also not change colors anymore. So we have y from the second point. I'm going to say this is the first and this is the second, just so we can all keep it straight. So the second point is negative 5 minus y from the first is 3 over x from the second, 0, minus x from the first, negative 2. So it's add 2. We end up with negative 8 over 2, which is negative 4. Okay, so now I'm going to substitute negative 4 right there for m, right? So x minus something and y minus something. So now you're choosing negative 2, 3 or 0, negative 5. I like to use zeros because it makes things easier. Okay, something cancels out. And yeah, I'll come back and make a comment on that one. Okay, so 0 for x and negative 5. So you're subtracting negative 5 means add 5. Okay, we're going to distribute. So, whoops, y add 5 is equal to negative 4x. Now if I go negative 4 times negative 0, first of all, negative 0 doesn't exist, it's just 0. But timesing by 0 gives you 0, and adding 0 is useless. I'm just going to leave it. Okay, so basically this arrow and this 0 are not necessary because it's a 0. Okay, so get y by itself. Sorry about that. Minus 5 minus 5. Remember to leave your x term first. And there you go. Okay, some of you may have noticed that this is a y-intercept. Okay, and if you did, there's a very good shortcut. Once you find your slope, all you need is y equals mx plus b. So you get y equals -4, which is our m, equals, or negative 4x, and our b value is -5. So -5. And that's what we got. Chances are you won't notice that very often, so make certain you understand how to do it the long way, just to be safe. And over here, there is no y-intercept given. There's no zeros in your points, so you have to do the whole thing. Okay, and I told you I'd show you a different way of organizing. Okay, so m is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and habit, I just do the first point that they give me as point 1 and the second point as point 2. So I'm going to do -4 minus -1 over -3 minus 5. So I get -3 over -8, which is positive 3/8. Okay, now instead of working the other part down here, I'm just going to keep going down this way. Okay, so y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So y minus, okay, let's take a look at the points, see which one I want to use. If I use the two negatives, my minuses will change to pluses. That's a good bonus for that one. 1 isn't as big and 5's positive, so I don't care either way. Let's just use point 1. So we end up with y minus -1 is equal to the slope we just got times x minus 5. Okay, because my screen is basically landscape going up and down, I'm going to have to slide it up and down, right? But sometimes the space you have on your paper is up and down, so this one works fine too. All right, I'm going to come down quite a ways because I have fractions to deal with and I want to show you those. So we're going to distribute. Y add 1 is equal to 3/8 x minus, so 3/8 times -5 over 1, multiply straight across, and we get -15/8. It's not going to simplify, so that's what we get. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract 1, but over here I'm going to subtract 1 in the form of eighths. So we get y equals 3/8 x minus 23/8. Okay, because that's so weird, you might want to try the other point and see if you get the same thing. And I did it really quickly so you can see that it is the same. Okay, so another thing you may want to look into when you're trying to decide which point to use, after you've gotten your slope, if the denominator will cancel with either of the x values, because you're going to have to distribute it to the x value, I would use that point. That would save you some fraction hassle. Okay? Would that work on a calculator? This one, eighths are always 3 decimals long, but it does go in evenly. Okay? Just do fractions. Next part is if you're given a graph and you need to come up with the equation of it. Okay? you can see by what they've drawn in here that we're going to do a slope by finding 2 points, right? Okay, once you've found a point on the line and another point on the line, draw your horizontal and vertical lines, make your triangle, and count the spaces. So we went down 2 and we went over 3. So your slope is change in y over the change in x. So now we have our slope, and we have a whole bunch of points to choose from. You can choose any point you want. However, that point right there is our y-intercept. So that would be a preferable point to use because, let's go this way because that's the way the screen works on this one. We can use this formula and we're done in one step because we just found the slope and we also have been given the intercept. So you're done. Okay, you won't always have a y-intercept, however. So in that case, you'll want to use, like they're asking down here, can you think of any other way? Yeah, we're going to want to use the other formula, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Find a point on the line. So let's say instead, zooming in, let's try another point like this one. I don't know why you'd want to use that one when you have better ones. Why do I say better ones? Because smaller numbers are a lot of times easier to compute with. But if I were to put 9, negative 3 in there, I would get the same thing. And there you go if you want to try it. Any point that I choose on this line, even the fractions. However, you're guessing on the fractions. You have to use a point that is an exact point. Ones that cross the line at the crosshatch. Okay, so can you see how that is the stairs that we've talked about quite a few times? Every stair gives you a new point. Any of those points plugged into the y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 will give you the same answer because they are on the same line. And this is the only one of those in your notes because it's pretty self-explanatory maybe. If you have any questions, make certain you ask, okay? Now here are your 2 special cases. So if you're given a horizontal or a vertical line, how do you remember that one is an x and one is a y, okay? If it crosses the y-axis, it's going to be a y equals. It travels in the x direction, yes, but that doesn't matter. It crossed the y-axis. Okay, so this one is y equals negative 2. You're done. That's it. There is no x because it didn't cross the x-axis. Now over here, this one crossed the x-axis, runs parallel to the y-axis. So it is up and down like the y-axis, but it doesn't cross it. It crosses x. So therefore, it is an x equals. Okay, so this one is x equals 4. That's a weird 4. That's it. You're done. Okay, remember they are special cases. You won't have to use any of the formulas. You just need to understand which letter to use, x or y. Now in this part, this is where it gets one step more complicated. Okay, so basically, okay, pretend that's a straight line. Okay, this is this line drawn out. I want to come up with the equation of the line that passes through 1, 2, and is parallel to this. In other words, this is going to be hard. Let's see if I can do it. It's going to run right next to it without crossing it. Okay, so when that happens, the slopes are the same. Okay, when two lines have the same slope, they will always be parallel. Okay, and the way I remember that is from the word. Okay, in the word you have two parallel lines. Okay, so parallel doesn't touch, right? Okay, so the slopes are the same. So in other words, we're going to use this slope with this point and use the point slope form. Okay, let's see what we've got. So y minus y from your point is 2. That is equal to the slope, which is going to be 5 times by x minus x from the point. And there you go. So distribute, and we get y minus 2 is equal to 5x minus 5. Add 2 to both sides, and we get y is equal to 5x minus 3. Okay, so back over to this. Does that look about right? Let's take a look at it. Slope should be 5, which is exactly the same, and y-intercept should be negative 3. Sure enough. Okay. Okay, this one is just one step different. All right, here's your situation. Write the equation of the line that passes through negative 6, 2, but is perpendicular to this. Okay, what does perpendicular mean? Okay, parallel meant they had the same slope. Perpendicular means they have negative reciprocal slopes. Okay, what does that mean? Okay, so let's say, for example, your slope was 2/3. The negative reciprocal of 2/3 is negative, and then you flip the top and bottom. Okay, so the 3 is now on the top, the 2 is now on the bottom. If the slope was negative 1/4, its negative reciprocal would be make a negative negative and it turns positive, right? So positive, and now exchange the top and the bottom and you get 4/1 or 4. If your slope was 2, how do you flip that upside down? You have to put it over a 1. So you change the sign, flip it over. Okay, so we're going to change the sign and flip it over once you find your slope. Okay, what do perpendicular lines look like? It means they cross at right angles. In other words, the line we're looking for is going to maybe go through that point. We'll find out. This needs to be a right angle. Okay, so I'm finding the equation of the pink line. Okay, so here we go. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. We know it has to go through this point. That point is the only one I know for certain. This one over here, I'm guessing at. I just drew it, and if my graph is right, that's where it'll go. It might be a fraction right close to it, but not quite, you know. Okay, so that point is negative 6, 2, like we had up here. So we're going to do y minus the y value, which is 2, is equal to, I'm going to come back to the slope, slope times x minus the x value, which is negative 6, so it makes it add 6. Okay, slope. Our original slope is right there, was 3. So I want to, okay, so this is how I do it. Original slope is 3. So the slope of the perpendicular, that is the symbol for perpendicular, by the way, upside down capital T, because the upright is perpendicular to the bottom, is, change the sign, flip it over, negative 1/3. And now we keep going on our problem. So we have y minus 2, clear the parentheses, so negative 1/3 x. Negative times positive is a negative, and 1/3 times 6, we'll both divide by 3, so I get 2 over 1, which is just 2. Add 2 to both sides, and I get y equals negative 1/3 x, right? Okay, so now I'm looking up at my graph, and the pink line is definitely off. Okay, there is no y-intercept over here, so it should cross through 0, which means it's up there. And that still looks like a right angle, you know? So, good lesson learned here is do not rely on your own graphs. Rely on the algebra, okay? So, I don't need that plus 0. That is my answer right there. Okay, you have 3 problems to do. It says group work, which means this is your own. So try all 3 of them and then come back and I will do each one of them for you. And zooming in on this first one, you have y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1, or y equals mx plus b, because this is b. That's a y-intercept. Okay, so the easy way, we're just going to do y is equal to 5/7 x minus 4. And you're done if you recognize it. If you didn't recognize it, then we have a little bit of work to do. So slope is 5/7, and we're going to do x minus 0. So y add 4 is equal to 5/7 x plus, try it again, minus 0, which we don't need, right? So minus 4 minus 4, y is equal to 5/7 x minus 4. Same thing, just went at it a different way because we didn't recognize. Okay, number 2 passes through those 2 points. You need to find your slope first. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and we get bigger numbers, doesn't matter. So negative 44 minus 19 over 5 minus negative 4. So negative 63 over 9, which is negative 7. Okay, because I'm out of space, I'm definitely going to come up here with my formula. And which point do we choose? Okay, the slope is 7, so that's not going to affect my choice at all. That's pretty big, but it's your y value, and it's over here, so I don't have to do 7 times that. But 7 times 19, yeah, I don't know. Choose. I don't care. I'm going to do the first one just because it's first. So y minus 19 is equal to negative 7 times x minus negative 4. So y minus 19 equals negative 7x minus 28. And getting y by itself, adding 19 to both sides, I get negative 7x minus 9. And just because some of you probably did it the other way, here we go. So y minus negative 44 is equal to negative 7 times x minus 5. So y add 44 is equal to negative 7x add 35 minus 44 from both sides. And I get y is equal to negative 7x minus 9. Exactly the same thing. Okay, last one. Find the equation of the line that passes through that and is perpendicular to that line. Okay, so the original slope is 3/4. The slope of the perpendicular is, change the sign, flip it over. And just curiosity's sake, slope of a parallel line is going to be exactly the same as the original. We don't need that though, right? Because we're doing perpendicular. So y minus y sub 1 is equal to the slope times x minus x sub 1. So y minus negative 3 is equal to negative 4/3 times x minus negative 3. Same thing. Okay, distribute. Y add 3 is equal to negative 4/3 x. Negative times positive is a negative. Your 3's are going to cancel because you put the whole 3 over a 1, and those go away. So it's 4 over 1, which is just 4. Subtract 3 from both sides, and we get y is equal to negative 4/3 x minus 7. Okay? I like 7's on these for some reason. 7 in each problem. Alrighty. Hopefully that's making sense. Maybe getting back to the algebra, just straight algebra is nice for some of you, but maybe some of you missed the visual stuff. Either way, this is it for the entire chapter. Okay, so go through all the videos, go through your homework, bring questions to class, and you got this.